Hey guys, so you're seeing us here in kind of a different format because we failed to introduce our guest coming into this next episode. We just kind of dove right in, didn't introduce her. Her name is Ashley Vaughan, and we both describe her as our favorite millennial. That's what the topic is today, all things millennial. So we brought her in to talk about those things. So Ashley is from Vancouver. She's married, mother of 3. Give me 3 words to describe Ashley.
Oh, man. Oh, I think Ashley is, they're all very I don't know if I can use a word to describe Ashley. I feel like Ashley is just Ashley.
Yes.
Right?
She's a feeling.
She is she's a good human. And along with her being a good human, she also has just an amazing personality and just a good energy.
Good, perfect way of putting it.
Great energy.
Yeah. She's multi-talented.
Absolutely.
A wonderful speaker, as you're about to hear.
Huge heart.
Yeah.
Huge heart.
She works kind of in the community with different groups as an advocate for accessibility. And she's 1 year into a project that kind of uses the gaming world to kind of shed light to these issues. She can explain it a lot better than I can.
And she will.
And she's going to. So it's called DigiBuddies if you want to look it up. But yeah, anyways, hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to the V Spot. I'm Vicky.
And I'm Velvet.
This is Ashley Vaughan. She's with us today.
Hi.
She's
Hi,
a V.
I'm a
Ashley
V.
Vaughan.
Vaughn. Happy to be here with you both.
We're very excited to have you. You're our first guest.
I'm excited to be the guinea pig.
Yeah,
No,
you didn't like that she's a guinea pig before.
No, I don't like that. You think,
But I don't
you're
think that's
we're
a negative
I
thing.
don't think so either.
Like
we're
if you're
testing it
out, I'm honored that you chose me.
I feel like more it's we know you've got it. So
There you
we're
go.
like, you got to bring in the best right off the bat, right?
She's also trusting that we're going to be good interviewers. It's not really interviewer. We're not interviewing you though. We're just going to have a combo.
Right.
About, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were originally going to have this conversation like just the 2 of us. But then we kept like talking about it, and it kept like, oh, we really need like a millennial on to get their point of view on it. And then we'll just get Ashley on.
Aren't you millennial? What is
I'm not.
No. We're Xers.
We're Gen Xers.
what is the cutoff for
Okay, so
Before.
okay.
Okay,
our
maybe we can
plan.
wait for
Yeah,
that.
no, that's
No.
fine. But our whole theme of tonight is millennials. Are they doing it better?
Are they doing it better?
That's what we're wondering,
Okay.
because we've had the discussion, and I was in my car one day. I was actually listening to a podcast, and I feel like a lot of millennial podcasters are true believers in like a lot of therapy, that type of thing. So
We
I was
like therapy though.
No, I know totally, but
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, are they figuring things out better than we are? So we're like, let's find out. So we're gonna find out tonight if they're doing it better.
Yeah. So a Gen X is 1965 to 1980, 81.
No, or 79, depending on what you look at.
I've never
Yeah.
seen 79.
Oh, I did today.
Okay.
No.
And then a millennial is 81 to 2000, 1996 6 or 7, depending on where you look.
Oh wow.
So you fall within.
definitely.
Yeah,
The
where
latter
are you
stage,
in there?
Very young millennial.
You're a young
No,
millennial.
I'm kidding. No,
You're like,
I'm old.
but you're definitely in the middle.
Sure. Yeah.
Like you're not an older.
84.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you're in enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking about like do millennials do it better? Because a lot of what we're listening to, I think millennials really believe they're doing it better. Like it's so different. So the way millennials are raising their kids and the way millennials' friendships are and their relationships are so different from what we have seen and done. So I had this whole thing. I'm going to read something to you.
Yeah.
I want your okay, are you aware of people's perception of millennials?
You know what? This topic actually really interests me.
Yeah.
I love reading about, especially Gen Z, which is
Yeah,
after
yeah.
millennial, comparing them to millennials. Actually, I love reading about stuff like this.
Okay.
So, yes,
So
I love talking about it. I love
Amazing.
observing it,
Right.
and hearing like the negative things about each and positive. And
Yeah.
so
Because I feel like I originally started doing research on like what the media says about like Gen X versus like millennial versus like Gen Z. The media is horrific to millennials. Like
yes.
so like even harder than Gen like Z. Like Gen Z, whatever, like is more celebrated. And they're like,
Yes.
I just find that and Gen X. So I'll read it to you and you can
Okay.
just see what you I will
Okay.
start with that. So I'll start with millennial. So I was like looking up, like, okay, let's see what like the impression is. So this is what, and I was honestly trying to find good stuff. This is what I found.
I couldn't.
Yeah, I know. Brace yourself.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are referred to as the me generation. A lot of the themes that I was hearing was narcissism and entitlement, fame obsessed. You're gonna be so offended. Higher cases of narcissistic personality disorder. So there's more cases in millennials than any other age group ever in history. But I think it's because they're more diagnosed. More Instagram obsessed, social media obsessed. Everything has to be perfect, image obsessed, creating a look. As far as like the positives, the only thing I could find, the things that were kind of pointed out was they're a little more like our generation's a bit more helicopter parent, like in everything, on everything, at everything, where millennials are a bit more hands off, free reign, which is kind of more seen as a positive or whatever. Because then when I looked up Gen X, which is us, it was like, this is going to sound so biased. Like, well, we are referred to as the forgotten generation. We were the least parented generation in human history. So like, we just weren't parented, like very do whatever you want, stay out all night, roaming the streets.
Right.
Like we
when
just,
the street lights
Yeah,
come on,
yes.
Yeah,
come back.
exactly.
yeah. Basically known as having an easygoing style. We don't try too hard. We were referred to as the most stressed generation, but nobody knows it. So we don't talk about it. We hide it. And like I said before, we're the first generation that did the whole helicopter parenting thing, whereas our parents were very much do whatever you want, don't care. We were like more in our kids' business. Yeah, that's basically the extent of it. Basically the middle child generation. So our conversation was, do we think that we're doing it better? Or do we think that millennials are doing it better? Like, do you notice a difference between how you're parenting? I'll just talk about parenting for now. Do you find a difference in how you think that we parented our kids versus how your friends and people your age are parenting their kids? Like, do you see a difference?
I definitely think, I wonder too if it depends on how old you are when you have children. Because that's one thing I noticed.
Sure.
Like, so I didn't have our first kids until I was like 28, 29, which is like in some aspect, like that's still young. Like say if you're from the city, but if you're from a small town, like that's
it's
pretty
old.
old.
It
That's
is.
like you're
Especially in church community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I got married really young. I was 22. So that's like quite a long time
Totally.
to wait. And so I'm in my late 20s, early 30s. And I definitely, that whole like helicopter parenting is not really a thing.
not.
I don't see it as much anymore. It's kind of like, we like to see our children fall and hurt themselves.
Yeah.
And like,
Let them fail.
yeah, like let them fail. I always say like, and I kind of say this tongue in cheek though, but like I think a little bit of neglect with your children
Right.
is like kind of a healthy thing. And I don't mean like you're like not feeding them and you're just like,
but you're just not helicoptering.
but it's like let them be bored and like let them figure it out
Yeah.
and let them be, if they're hungry, don't like suddenly shove food in their mouth. Like let them wait. And,
Right.
like this like instant gratification, which I think is
Yeah.
not helpful in young children, right? So I
Right.
was like, like they can wait. If they're hungry, they can wait for a little bit. And so I think to answer your question, do I see it? Yeah, I guess if I look at my friends' circle, like it's a lot more like free range children is kind of this thing that you
Right.
hear a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So like they're allowed to eat where they want. They're allowed to like that's where I'm like, that's where I start having a problem with
Right,
it.
yeah.
Is I don't mind the learning for yourself and, you know, things aren't working out for you and you learn from that type of thing. But when it comes to like my kids can eat anywhere, they're learning. Like at some point, it's just manners and rules too.
Like
right?
a restaurant, for example, like it's like that is awful. You know, you're at a restaurant and then there's like two kids like running around the restaurant and the parents are like, it's fine. Like,
but even at home, I feel like they allow their kids to do that. It's just like a thing. Like it's like free range.
Yes.
You're learning, you're figuring it out. But like, where's I have said to Vicky before that I work at a dance studio now as well. And I know the millennial parents and I know which kids are theirs. It's so obvious to me. They're a different breed.
Right. Right.
It's just so different.
But I wonder like if it is how compared to like how like free range you are, if that means they were like came from strict parents. Do you know what I mean? And so they realize like, okay, like I do not want to be raised I don't want to raise my children how I was raised. So therefore I'm not going to have these rules and I'm just going to let them if they don't want to eat.
Almost. Yeah.
Because I would say I'm not super free range in that way. Like I don't let my kids like, you know, run around a restaurant and they have to sit until we're like all done eating because
because that's life. I feel like there's like a life skill, right? Like you can't run around while you're eating. That's just not a thing.
I read this thing, I think it was in the New York Times about millennials being the first generation that won't experience midlife crisis. And they had a few reasons. One was like, can they afford like with the cost of living? Typically, like what was a midlife crisis? Because you're working, you're having children, and then you realize I didn't get to enjoy life, and so they go and they buy like a sports car or they go on this trip. Well, one, can millennials actually afford to have a midlife crisis? But the other aspect was millennials basically have been living through a state of crisis. If you think about like where the world has been, where it was like, you know, there's 9/11 and then there's like the wars, like Afghanistan wars, and then there's like the recession and housing crisis. And like there's all that coupled with like the cost of living. And so is it that to do with the parenting aspect, is it like you're just so exhausted of like this perpetual state of crisis, however that is for someone, that when it comes to parenting, it's just like, whatever, just like
be happy.
Go run around. I don't know. Go check with the kitchen if they have more fries. Like it's
like do you think that social media has played into that with millennials? Because I feel like millennials are the first generation to like actually have all the social media. Like whereas we didn't, and we're kind of into it now, but millennials definitely have grown up with everything. You guys had the internet. You had things that we didn't have. So do you think that's played a role in it? Like to be seen, to be in front of the camera, that type of thing? Or
I think like when you were listening about like the narcissistic and like everything has to be picture perfect, and I think that does stem from social media. Like I think of even like kids birthday parties, for example. It's like, okay, like when I came home from a friend's birthday party, I wasn't like commenting to my mom like, oh my gosh, like the balloons matched the bathroom towels. Like it was amazing. Like that was never an aspect, nor would my mom ask about the decor.
Right.
Nor would like, did she throw parties where like there's all the detail, but suddenly like say for a kid's first birthday, it's like, it's incredible, but how much of it is like, is it for the 1-year-old who's got no idea what's happening?
It's for Instagram.
It's for social media, right? Yeah. And so then there's this pressure of like, everything has to be perfect.
Yeah.
And so then as a parent, you're watching this and thinking, oh gosh, like I better post something like this for my kid's first birthday party. But then I think it stems on into that. It's like every aspect of their life, like this is my free range child and they eat only like fruits and vegetables. They never eat sugar. Like I see that so many often, like my child's never had sugar. And I'm like, I saw your kid at the playground with Fruit Loops. Like I know that they eat sugar because my kid gave them sugar. Yeah. Like it's like, but there's this pressure. It's almost like you feel this guilt of like, well, I give my kids sugar a lot. Like, and so I think social media does have it because it puts this false sense of like, oh, I need to keep up with the Joneses of like, you know, organic and gentle parenting and
nightmare.
And so I think a lot of the narcissism, the perfectionism But then it kind of, I feel like the pendulum has shifted of like, this is real life. Like real life,
being authentic.
right? Because for so long it has been like, everything has to be perfect and look
But
beautiful.
Even I find that even what is authentic is kind of curated in a sense.
Right.
Like just being me, sitting on my beautiful blah blah blah, just being real. I'm like,
yeah. Or they're like crying and they're like filming themselves crying. Like
yeah.
that's also like
it's very I'm have a tear. It just seems a little odd to me.
Yeah. And I mean, in one sense, I appreciate when people are being real. Like, I think there needs to be like a realness of like, today's been a really tough day. I'm going through a hard thing.
And you can appreciate that.
Yeah, I can totally appreciate that.
You can tell those people though too.
Yeah.
When it's authentic and when it's
like
not.
Okay.
I feel like you feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you kind of fell into the trap of social media, like trying to make things look perfect or be perceived a certain way? Like, do you fight that ever, or do you just don't even care?
I think like, when you like look back on Facebook statuses of like 2006, like when it first came, like I cringe
cringy
when I read that, when it's like, Ashley is, does anyone know where that like what was that when Facebook said like it was like it was is. And then you're trying to make a sentence or you're like, I remember being like, I'm so done. And it's like, oh my gosh, like or they called it vague booking. It was a thing. They called it vague booking, and there's a lot of people that would vague book, and I realized like, oh, I often did vague book as well. Like,
but it wasn't
so
even
done.
Even yes, I know. And then people are like, hope everything's okay, hugs and prayers, and it's like, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Ashley is, I'm so mad at everyone. And it's like, okay.
I think we all did it to a certain extent.
Yes.
I just never really felt like, so I also read this thing that was saying that like our generation, when we were growing up with our kids and like parenting them, like we were more worried about like what other moms thought of us. Like we were very like, so if I was doing something that was like, I could clearly see was not the kind of what everyone else is doing, that would kind of make me feel self-conscious and try to change what I'm doing. And nothing to do with the internet. Like I didn't care what they were doing on Instagram because there was no Instagram.
It was like in-person pressure as opposed to,
it was in-person pressure. And if I felt like I needed advice or I asked people, where they're saying the millennials ask the internet.
Yes.
They're not asking each other.
Right.
So you're getting these like very idealistic, perfect world solutions. And not only that, you're getting 100 different answers. Like I read this whole thing on like, what was it? Like babies, when you're sleep training. And there's moms on TikTok crying because other moms are saying that sleep training is abusive. And then other ones are like, it's not, it's necessary. Like that is so messed up.
Yeah.
Like,
how
how do you even know what to do? It'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. I think like, I feel like when I was having kids, there was Facebook and Instagram. But Instagram, there was no reels and videos.
Right,
So I don't feel like I had as much. It was just like those picture perfect settings I felt like. But now for parents, I actually really empathize with that.
Like young millennials.
Yeah. The pressure that you feel of like hearing opinions. Like for millennials, I feel like millennials often were the ones saying, I feel like, and then you kind of talk things through,
right?
Where they say like Gen Z are like, I know, because they have like all this information and they read up on stuff they know. And what was like millennials is like the generation where we complained a lot.
Yeah.
But now Gen Zers are the ones that are actually like protesting and they're actually applying, they're fighting things or they're for social justice, where the millennials were like, this is so awful. I can't believe this is happening. But none of us do anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of been the difference between empathetic and compassionate, where empathy is more like you feel empathy, but compassion is like, I feel like I'm going to stop it and like make a change. Or millennials, or maybe we'll complain. We complained for years
on Facebook.
On Facebook. And we like shared the posts. But like, I actually think it's great that these Gen Zers are like, they're the ones that it feels like, at least from social media, like they're the ones like marching to like, Capitol Hill to what was in Nashville? Where was that school shooting? Oh, Tennessee? Tennessee, where it was like thousands of kids are like marching to the Capitol. And it's like, that's great because millennials, we would be more likely at that age to just like complain.
Yeah.
And then probably the generation, or even the boomers is like, well, no, you do not like question authority. Like it was
Except
very
the boomers were all like anti-Vietnam and like they were like the hippies though.
True. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know where all of a sudden we have our activists back.
Yeah.
But boomers now are very like older boomers, like the ones like now that they're old. Sorry, boomers. Because Gen X are old too. They're for sure like, don't do that. Like what the government says is the truth. Like they're very much believe. I don't know what
question
happened.
anything.
What happened?
Yeah, I find that with even my mom, right? Like we've had discussions about them. Like you don't even question that. You just believe. Like
because their generation did question
totally.
it when they were young.
Yeah. So it's just like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But apparently Gen Z is the first generation that has child activists. Like that's never happened before. Where like children, teenagers are going and like they're picketing.
Like they feel like they take matters into their own hands now. Apparently they're like, we're done. Let's just do this. We got this.
I just wonder like, and I mean, I feel a little bad for like millennials because like Gen Z makes fun of them so bad.
Yeah.
And Gen X, our generation is so irritated by a lot of what we see. And I don't know if that's just because we're older.
Right.
Or if it's because there's good reason for it. Because I feel like millennials, like even if I give like a millennial like parenting advice, they look at me like, that's not up to date. Like I feel stupid.
Right.
Whereas when my parents' generation gave me advice on parenting or on anything, I would listen.
Yeah.
Like I took it like, okay, that's good advice.
And
that's
apply it possibly.
Yeah. Like, but I figured it came from a place of knowing, having been there, done that, where I don't feel like millennials, I feel kind of like, oh, I shouldn't suggest anything or even.
But I wonder if too that is because like say we all say social media, but I think also internet, right?
Yeah.
Like there's you just Google things where like my mom didn't have Google, and how much was Google a thing?
Right.
I didn't have Google either though until way later, right? Like I didn't even have a computer in my house.
Yeah.
Until after I graduated. Like it was just not a thing. We didn't have access to anything. It was encyclopedias and
internet in our hand happened with the first smartphone,
right?
Whenever that was, I suppose. And then we started Googling.
And you Google, that's the thing is you Google like everything, every rash. Like I Googled so much with my babies, whereas like, and then if it, like my mom comes in and thinks, well, maybe it's this. I'm like, well, Google says it's all this. And it's like, so I wonder how much of it's less about the generation, people. Well, no, I would be the generation because of the internet just plays such a huge role. I also I read, I read up about millennials a lot because I think sometimes I'm like, am I like this? Are
you self-conscious about the fact that you're a millennial? Like, are you like
apologize?
Yeah,
do I take
I'm a
this
millennial?
Like, well, some stuff I'm like, oh, I don't think I was like that, but I don't know if that's also a millennial thing to be in denial about. Like that's not me, that's the other people,
right?
But one was like, millennials are the generation that they haven't aged. They're in denial of growing old. Like they're stuck in their fashion. They're stuck in like the whole joke about like they feel like 1970 was like 30 years ago, where now it's like what 50 years ago.
Right.
Because I'm so guilty of that, where I think I'm so much younger than I am. Like I know I'm old, and I recognize I'm looking old and I'm growing old, but in my head I think I'm like 27 still. And so like a few weeks ago my youngest is in kindergarten, and I was chatting with his teacher and found out that she grew up in a small community very close to where I grew up. And so I was like, wow, this is so crazy. And her first job was at this coffee shop that a family friends of ours had like opened this coffee shop. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I bet you we're at parties and we had no idea. We probably know so many people. Like, what year did you graduate? And she's like,
no,
2050. Oh no. Oh no. I had 2 kids by the time you're like out partying. No. I'm like lulling to sleep to the sound of the breast pump.
Who were your friends? Maybe we like
but that was like, that's how, like, I think sometimes how delusional I am, where I think like, oh yeah, I'm clearly the same age. And my husband, he teaches he's a university prof, and I wanted to come watch his class, and I was like, oh, that's fine. I was like, I'll just slip in the back.
Yeah, totally.
I don't mind. And he's like, you're a 39-year-old woman. You think you're just gonna slip in the back and no one's gonna notice? And like, oh yeah. And so I think like, is this a narcissistic or like self like
I don't know if that's a
what it
millennial thing,
is.
because
Like,
it's funny that you said
Yeah.
27. That is my age forever. Someone asked me what age I'd want to be. 27.
27.
That's where I'm at mentally. I'm always 27. I don't feel like I'm older than that even a little bit. So I think that's just maybe a denial thing.
yeah, maybe it is
Not even,
denial. Like I'm like, yeah, I'm so young. Like I'll see, I'd like if I run into like like at the hospital, like and talking to a nurse, and I'm like, oh yeah, you went to that school. I went to that school. What year did you graduate? And it's like, they're so much younger than me, and I don't know.
You don't even recognize it, right? Like to see them, you're like, what?
But I know they're looking at me, being like,
Of course,
like,
of course.
lady, I did not graduate with you.
You were my
Like,
teacher.
That's how I feel when I go to like concerts and stuff. Like I feel like I'm the old lady in the room. I'm bringing down the vibe. Like it's like, who brought grandma?
I don't ever feel that way.
I know you don't.
I don't. I again, I
Yeah.
am forever 27. I am.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like you feel like you like
I fit.
add to the youth.
I feel like I can hang out with my kids' friends.
Oh no. That's so cringe. You're that mom.
Yeah.
My kids are really young, so I don't. But my kids think I'm so great. Like, and I say I say this in a way like
Must be nice.
they're so
Just such a millennial.
they're like 5, 7, and 9, so they're really young. So they
Yeah.
just think like, oh, mommy's so fun because like I am
You
really
still
fun.
know it all.
Yeah,
and you are
like-
fun, but you still they
And so they're always like,
different.
Mom, you're like a teenager sometimes. And it drives my husband nuts because he's like,
Right.
she's not a teenager. Okay. Like, I think he's already 40. And so I think in his mind, he's like, oh my gosh, like, you're coming with me.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm
Yeah.
getting old, like, you're coming with me.
I'm not doing this alone.
Yeah.
You are like on the older end of millennials because I think the youngest
Yes.
ones right now are like, I guess 26, 20.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So do you get irritated by things that you see with people in your generation that are younger? Like, do you see certain things and you're like, oh my gosh, or no?
I get really annoyed. Like, I think what really annoys me, and millennials are terrible for this, is when their primary identity is how busy they are.
Yeah.
And millennials are really bad at this.
You were so right.
where it's like
Interesting.
you ask them like, hey, how's it going? Like, what have you been up to? And they're like, oh, I'm so busy. Like, I've just been so busy.
It's like a brag.
Yeah, it's like, to me, it just screams like insecurity in a way where it's like, really, you have nothing else to talk about how busy
Right.
you are. And maybe they're busy because their kids are in a lot of things, or it's just they have so much going on in their life. But like, we're all busy. Like,
Yeah.
no one's just sitting around doing nothing. But I think there's like this pressure of like, if I'm busy, like I'm accomplishing a lot and I'm doing good things, and the millennials, I think, are terrible at this. Where
Is that where the narcissism comes into play then too?
I don't know if it's narcissism or just more like to me, I think it's just like insecurity, where it's like you're just so busy, but then it's like, well, what are you doing? And like, it's like, oh, I can't keep my house clean. I can't
right.
do this. And it's just like, that's really sad that like this is your like first thing that you can just
Right.
like clutch on to. And so that does really annoy me, the busyness aspect. It's like, so I guess I'm not busy.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm not busy at all. Like, I'm just-
Really? Like, I got all these TikToks you should see.
Yeah,
Like,
I have time to do TikTok. Like, I'm so not
House
busy.
is like this all the time. We're good.
Do you find that like, because we both have noticed that like millennials are way more into like self-help, self-diagnosis,
Therapy.
Therapy.
They're big fans
they
of
like,
therapy.
I know we like the word label is a bit of a trigger word, but millennials do like to put labels on themselves. So I'm this, and this, and this, or all these like diagnoses, which is fine because you can't get help with a diagnosis.
No,
like
but,
every millennial has ADHD.
Yes,
now.
absolutely.
It's actually a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our generation, and I said this to my daughter the other day, I'm like, we fought so hard against labels. Like we were like, don't label me. Like you're not going to tell me what I am. Like we didn't want labels. Like it was such a aversion for now to everyone like to say all their things. I'm like,
No, but like all their things. I don't even know what they're talking about half the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like this with this, and then you have this with the rising sun and this, and then my Enneagram, and I'm like, I don't what? Like I don't even know what that means.
Enneagram. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Enneagram.
See,
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the Enneagram.
I know. I just feel like the younger people are really taken up with their own personalities.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh. I'm sitting here. I'm like, yes, this is me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is it that? I don't know why that is though.
Yeah.
I don't know what it
either.
is. Is it more we can therefore, if we like label ourselves and put these labels on that we can therefore justify reasons for our personality or justify this is why I do this or this is why I don't
because
do
I'm
this.
an Enneagram 6, so I'm blah, blah, blah,
Yes.
blah. Because I have taken the exams or whatever, but
What were you?
a 6, I think.
Okay.
I immediately forget.
Yeah.
So I could be a 9. I have no, what are you? I don't even know what any of it means.
I'm a 7.
See, I feel like I was a 7, maybe 2. I don't know. I'll take it later and let you know. But I honestly, like, I forget. And I don't like, I just find that when I'm with, like, if I am hearing a conversation with, like, younger millennials, they're comparing these things and, like, talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
The day our group of friends would have ever talked about their personalities, like, for more than a second, like, that's embarrassing. Like, right? Like, that'd be weird.
Yeah.
Even, like horoscopes or signs or which we don't really believe anyway, but
No, but I
you
feel
do
like they're
a little more than me.
I don't know if I believe, but I think it's interesting how
Yeah.
certain things do line up with personalities and that type of thing. But yeah, no, they're definitely way more into not just that, but I feel even with like therapy as opposed to counseling. So I think therapy is in there, you're talking about yourself, that type of thing. Counseling is more of a you're going in for some help.
With
And
a
I feel
problem
like
to solve.
right. Whereas I feel like millennials just love to go in
And life
talk,
coaches.
right?
Yeah.
It's very almost self-serving. But in that, is that better? Like maybe that is better that they're finding all these things out about themselves. We're like, what?
Well, they say Gen X is the most stressed out generation, but no one knows it.
But to me, if I
Right.
know all those things, that just stresses me out more. Like I don't want to dig that deep into myself sometimes. Like sometimes that just creates more chaos, I feel.
Do you go to therapy?
That's very personal. No. You know what I have?
Yeah.
I've like I wouldn't say I regularly go. I have in the past, like maybe a few times, and I think there is a good thing about going to therapy.
I think
but I
therapy's
think
fantastic, yeah.
and I know you're not saying this,
Yeah.
but I think it's what do people therefore do with that? Like if it,
Right.
I think there's a good thing to go to therapy and figure out like what's going on or what happened in the past or how to do this.
But I think
But
that's
if you live
counseling,
in
that's
this
different.
like perpetual state of like, you know, say they find out they have anxiety. Sorry, I keep hitting this anxiety,
Right.
and then it's like, but then you take on that identity that I have
Yeah.
anxiety, therefore I can't go help in this. And I think
Right.
if you use that as a crutch,
Right.
Same with like ADHD, and I joke about ADHD, but I actually did because of TikTok. Was like I must have ADHD,
so
and
does
so
this one.
I do too.
I got evaluated by a doctor, and of course it was like off the chart. And I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so
It's
much sense
good
from my
for you.
childhood.
It's good for
Makes
you
sense
to
now.
know that because it validates a lot of your experience, which I get that.
But if I
completely.
therefore went the rest of my life and just used ADHD as a crutch, and it's like, well, it's because I have ADHD. Like,
It's an excuse
sorry guys,
for
like,
things.
I
Yeah.
can't
I'm
do
an hour
anything.
late. I have
Yeah,
it's
my ADHD.
Which you do see
Yeah.
Yes.
often, I think, in certain scenarios, and I think, yeah.
It's interesting though, like hearing you talk about it because you see it for what it is and you acknowledge it, but it doesn't seem to inspire any kind of emotion in you. Like it doesn't bother you. It is
No,
what it is.
yeah.
Whereas when we talk about it, we're like so irritated.
annoying.
Like I don't know what that is about. If it's just us or if it's our generation. Like why do we feel the need?
It's not just
Why
us.
do we care?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like so why do we care if millennials are obsessed with the perfect Instagram feed, or I'm generalizing here, or they are all comparing their sleep baby
Schedules,
wearing or like
Right.
they're talking about that. Why do we care if they want to go to therapy and give themselves 57 labels, or like why do we care?
Do they push it on us? Is that why?
I don't feel like they do. We're seeing it on social media, but
Yeah.
we're choosing to look at that. We don't have to look at that.
Yeah, but I have, in certain circumstances, I have to be around it still.
you're being around
I'm affected by it to some
Yeah.
degree, right? When I have to deal with other people's children and
right,
you're clearly
right,
being parented by a millennial.
right, right.
It could also be that you are like you guys have way older kids than like my kids, right?
Right.
And so like you've gone through the parenting thing and have so much wealth of experience and wisdom, where maybe you're watching us as we're like trying
Stumbling.
to, and you're like, this is going to turn out bad when they're 13
Right.
and you're letting them run free reign now. You wait till they're 15 and they're going to like rule the roost type thing. Stop talking. Who says rule the roost? Anyways,
An older millennial
would say that. And I bet you that's probably a lot of frustration because you've been around the block. Right. And so you're watching and you're like, but we don't want to take your advice, obviously.
Because the internet says something different.
Because TikTok told me that this will work. And so I bet you a lot of the frustration stems from that because you knew what was taught to you, which was from the boomer generation,
right?
In a way, like say with parenting, and so and you take it and do your own aspect to it, where maybe the millennials were like, we take it because Facebook at the time told us that this was the way to do it.
Because they're not talking to each other. Is that why? Do you feel like you go to friends for advice, or do you automatically just straight to like Google?
I feel like I'm such a bad person to take parenting advice from because, and I say this to every new parent now, I always say like my best advice to you is to not talk to anyone. Like don't it is your own kid, and what something works for a friend, like that's not gonna work for you, and so don't take that pressure on to yourself. Because I remember like when my son was born, our first child was born, everyone, because you'd always hear like, oh my gosh, like when you have a baby, like you are not even going to remember what your life used to be like. You were going to hold that baby and you were
that
just
would be the Gen X
love
saying that to you, by the
baby.
way.
And it's just going to be like the best thing. Like I remember having my son and I think he was like, I ended up having to have an emergency C-section. So I was like we were stuck in the hospital for a while. And it was like 3 days in and I said to my husband, I was like, do you love him? And he was like, no. And I was like, I don't love him either. I don't love this baby. And then I'm like, what? We don't love this baby. And I was just like, and also like no one tells you that like how terrible breastfeeding is. I could do like, it irks me so much. Cause like, no, it's a natural thing. No, a baby sucking on your nipple, like that is not a natural thing. And it's painful. And so I think I felt like I was so lied to of, this is what parenting is, birthing a baby is. Right. And so, so now when people have babies, I'm like, you're going to have a baby and it's going to be awful. And you're probably not going to love it for a while, but just figure it out.
It'll come.
And it probably took me 2 weeks to be like, oh, I love this baby. And I'm also not the most maternal type person. Like obviously love my children, but, so I think when it comes to like parenting, even like this whole millennial and Gen Z thing, I'm just like, oh, just do whatever works for you. Because seriously, no matter what you read,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because it's like your own kid, and you can breastfeed or you can formula, and
it's still fine.
Millennials just seem so obsessed with doing the right thing.
Yeah. Birthing stories too. I can like,
oh dear God.
That's another thing.
You look so annoyed right now.
I will say this, and I forgive any friends who listen to this. Like, I hate listening to birthing stories. Like when women get in a room and talk about their birthing stories.
So was it baby showers too?
Like, how big was your baby? Like, I only remember how big my oldest was because he was massive,
and he was stuck in your birth canal.
And he was stuck in the birth canal, and he had to like. That's the only one I remember. But it's just like. I think that also goes to with the identity of like, I know I'm a mother, therefore I need to like know all this and have to be on this, and millennials are terrible for birthing. No, I shouldn't say terrible. I think that's great. And I do celebrate with a new mom who has it, but when your kids are like 15, 20, 10, like if we're still talking about the birthing stories, like that's where I draw the line, where it's like, how do you even remember this?
Yeah. I'm gonna be
clearly on a rampage right now.
Gen X does the birthing story thing too, a lot. I think that's
a lot of reminiscing thing.
But but now it's like in TikTok where it's like it's really prettily done.
You're telling the world now too.
Like
you're not just telling your friends. Now it's like everybody's gonna know my birthing story.
I remember when I first like the whole internet Facebook thing started, and I would see like birth announcements. They would put like born blah 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 birthing story to come. I'm like, wait, what? That's not like we have to share the birthing story now
In the
like,
newspaper?
in Facebook.
On
So it'd be like,
Facebook, oh.
so and so was born this day. I will share birth story later. Like, so then later, sure enough, 2 days later, the whole birth story would be like, Sunday night, I started to feel pressure. I'm like, oh my gosh. Why?
It was 6 a.m. I was eating a bag of Cheetos and I felt a little...
So like your older kids, elementary school teachers reading your birth story while
Right.
like, that's weird.
Yeah.
It just, why are we doing that? It's such an overshare thing with that.
Yeah.
I feel like Gen X does it too. I don't think that's just
That might be a mom thing.
I think it's a mom thing, maybe.
Yeah. And you're either a
Maybe-
sharer
yeah.
or not.
That could be it.
I don't feel like Gen Z is going to be that way at all.
No, I agree.
I don't know if it's just because they're the oldest are teenagers right now, really. No, because there's some young adult Gen Z.
Mhm.
I don't notice that. I don't get irritated by Gen Z. Like, I don't see what they're posting on social media and be like, oh my, I don't roll my eyes at it. Maybe the odd teenagery thing, but like, I don't get.
Wasn't there some sort of stat, though, that you were saying one time, something to do with the fact that Gen Z is so much like X?
Yeah, they're saying that, like, so millennials basically, like, every generation kind of like lives their life in kind of almost an aversion to the way they were raised. So like, oh, I didn't like that, so I'm going to do this. Where Gen X is the first generation to raise mini-me's and our Gen Z. Like, our kids are so much like
us.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we don't get irritated by our children, because they, oh yeah,
Right.
I can get behind that.
Like they share the same values, the same logic, it feels like.
Yeah.
Like it's more on the
I
same
don't know what
page.
created that dynamic.
Our
though.
awesomeness.
I know. We're so arrogant. Because like Ashley can sit here and see like the flaws in her own generation.
Yeah.
Why can't we? What's wrong with us? So that's a flaw right there.
Is it though? Or maybe we just do it better.
We got some millennials are great as well, right?
Okay, how are
If
they
you think
great?
of like, there's a lot of entrepreneur millennials,
yeah.
right? Where
Yeah.
generations before was like you did your 9-to-5
That's
job.
true.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
And I think also, in fairness to millennials, is they probably saw that the burden their parents lived, right? Like they're doing the grind to provide for them. They don't have 6 weeks of vacation.
Right.
They're working 40, 60 hours a week. And to them, we're thinking maybe like, I don't want to have
Yeah.
that life. Like, yeah, my parents worked so hard. And so I think that's why like all this creativity came in, you know,
Right.
also of course with social or the internet on digital online type jobs. But I think there is like some creativity that came through with millennials, right?
There's creativity, but are they doing it easier, which makes them lazier? Do you know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
not doing the 9 to 5. I mean,
Right.
some are.
Which they say
Right?
millennials are the lazy generation as well, right?
Okay.
And it probably is the perception because
Any
it's like,
negative personality
why would I
trait?
work 9 to 5
Right.
when
Yeah.
I can do this?
But that's,
Yeah.
Is that smarter though?
Are they happier, right? Like,
Yeah.
Are they happier?
you know, are they enjoying their quality of life more that way? Yeah.
I did, when I was doing my like deep dive on this, I did learn that millennials have a better work home balance, which is the first generation to really nail that, because our generation did not nail that at
That's
all.
fair. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, in that way,
Yeah, but what are they doing with their time at home then?
it's none of your business.
But is that also because we were forced to because COVID came and like suddenly
Maybe.
everyone's at home and then jobs like shifted of like, well, maybe we don't need people in the office this much. or,
Yeah.
like,
But that applies to everybody, the boomers, Xers, millennials,
Yeah,
everybody,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
The COVID affected everybody, not just the millennials.
yeah.
So I don't know.
I just think that the millennials, I feel like I think Gen X is more influenced by millennials than what we would care to admit. Because even like being a younger Gen X, or like in my early 20s or whatever, the millennials would have been kids at that point, right? I just find as that generation has gotten older and been more open to things like therapy and more willing to talk about things like anxiety and talk. Now our kids can get the help they need for certain issues because it is so talked about. We never
Yeah.
talked about it.
It's okay to talk about
It is
things,
okay.
yeah.
Like if it wasn't for the millennials, I don't think that these open conversations would happen.
Right.
Millennials are very apologetic and careful when they're talking about it because they don't want to offend anybody. But at least it started the conversation, at least, which is a positive thing in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
But it also could be that so my son is 9, my oldest son, and so he's been seeing a psychologist regularly for the last year, and we got a psychologist. So our daughter, as you know, has disabilities like complex needs, and so we found a psychologist who deals specifically with siblings of children with complex needs.
Oh, that's
very cool.
interesting.
Like, you think like you're dealing with the one child, but actually not realizing how the other children are being affected by, you know.
There's a term I learned on TikTok about that.
Of
siblings of children with special needs, something like the not invisible something, but something basically to the effect that often those kids are looked through.
Yes.
Because of their sibling.
Yes.
Oh, there's a term for it, which I thought was really interesting.
And it's real. And so it wasn't like we were seeing a shift in our son who would kind of make comments, but he's also like a really quiet, sweet boy. And so kind of a year ago, we just finished a 2-month stay. Our daughter was in the hospital, and he kind of just imploded everything. So we found this psychologist who helps us all.
Right.
But I was talking with my mom, and she's was saying how it's so great that we're finding this help for him now.
Yeah.
Where she's like when you were a kid, like me, she's like, this wasn't a common thing.
I agree.
Children's psychologists, it was hard to find them, or it wasn't where now it's very popular. And so I think it's not about millennials being better. I think there's just so much more options.
Right.
And, having him figure it out now, or us to help support him now and to process this now, versus he's an adult and he just snaps and
Right.
Yeah. So
it's called glass children. Glass children are siblings of a person with a disability. The word glass means people tend to see right through them and focus only on the person with a disability.
Yes.
Yeah. I just heard the term for the first time.
I've never even heard that term, but yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah, this is not very nice. We won't read that, but no. I don't think any of those things apply to you. I'm sure you're fine. Do you find that, I wonder though, if your parenting has been a little bit different because you've had extra challenges, you aren't going to fall into that easy breezy, your life has to be very, for the most part, a little planned out, and you're dealing with extra issues every day or whatever.
Yeah, I think that does play a lot in the perspective of, there's so much more important things to worry about than dealing with this issue.
Who cares if you're wearing your baby?
Yeah.
We're going to argue about that?
Yeah, I think that does play. But I always have to be careful, because I have come to realize my mountain that I face is my mountain, and everyone has their own mountain. And so I can't sit here and judge when my daughter was born, it was so basically what happened is she got stuck in the womb. Wherever there was space to grow, she grew. And so she came out a very twisted baby. Found out over the next couple of days she was paralyzed. It was just all such a shock. And she doesn't even have a proper diagnosis. They just gave her a diagnosis called caudal regression, which is just your legs didn't develop properly. And so I felt as a mother, with a new baby, I'm kind of dealing with this, where I had low empathy of say friends who had babies, and they're like, oh my gosh, they're not sleeping through the night, and be like, my baby won't even move its legs. So I had to really check myself a lot to not be negative or not show empathy towards that.
That would be hard.
But I've learned that that is their mountain. And so I can't, because actually people can look at us with our daughter and be like, you're fine. I got this, right?
It's true. Yeah.
She's not dying of anything. She's a healthy girl and somewhat. And so it's we can all judge each other, but we shouldn't. But I think to your point about with my parenting style, I think probably a lot of it does stem from that, where it's just whatever.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah. Or just, big deal. They're eating, Honey Nut Cheerios for breakfast and just dry Cheerios for lunch. Whatever.
Yeah. Everyone's happy today.
Everyone's good.
Food's food.
Okay, well, now might be a good time for us to talk then about what you are doing. You said you have big things in the works.
Big things in the works. Yeah. So, what's really funny is we're talking about the internet. And so I've becoming interested in this. You hear like web one, do you like web one, web two, and web three?
No
okay,
idea.
so web one is like the first original internet, where was basically you would just like read what was on a screen, what was given to you. Web two comes, which is the next layer of internet, where now we're able to like have. That's when blogs became a thing. Like we can also write and contribute to the internet.
Right.
Google reviews became a thing. At the same time, companies are like following what you search, and they're like selling your information. That was web two. Now we're in this third level, which is web three, which is basically you can become like an owner, your own owner to your own content on the internet. It's about community and that aspect. And then of course with that comes that whole, those like hot button topic words of like blockchain and crypto. Don't worry, I'm not going to get into talking about crypto. I remember your first episode, so you will never hear us talk about
we don't do that here.
So it's like that aspect is also part of Web3. Yeah. But anyways, so like I was saying about our daughter, so she a year ago had she had to be in the hospital for like 8 weeks, and so while she was there, she loves to draw art, and so she's created these little like characters. And so we were chatting with the hospital, because an interesting thing, going back to this whole millennial boomer, whatever, talking to hospitals and other charities, as the boomer generation is aging out, charities are losing those like faithful donors.
Yeah, they absolutely are.
Because like not a lot of Gen Xers are doing that. Millennials are sure like not as much doing that at all. And so charities are really scrambling of like, how do we
generate
how do we generate like faithful donors? Like, gone are the days of like Timmy's telethon where you like phone in. Like how else do you?
And boomers are really great for the
They're
generosity.
so great.
Yeah.
Even now, like these legacy donors are just like, they're so incredible. And so I was chatting with the hospital of like figuring like, how do we gain traction in this? And so we had this idea of like, if we can take this art that she's created while she's in hospital and kind of create these digital trading card type things. We're in the works of creating this video game as well. And these trading cards become these characters in this video game. And the video game is going to basically like teach children about accessibility, about issues, because each character has a disability, and kind of bringing that into the gaming world. And with this idea of, I heard it said once, of distance creates apathy, but proximity creates compassion. Yeah. And so if we're like, we know that kids are just into video games. So if we like create this game, but another aspect of it is that other children with disabilities or in the hospital can also contribute to this game through their drawings or whatever. And then therefore there's this aspect where the family can then get money, like when
like someone buys their character,
whatever. It's a way for families with disability, because it does cost a lot of money. Like if your child's disabilities, like you got to get equipment and there's therapies, and also they can attach that to their hospital. And so it's a way to not only bring awareness of accessibility, like things that so many people deal with that, but most of us don't understand, but also a way to generate funds for these charities and hospitals. And so it's been a year in the works, and we're going to be launching next month, which is going to be really fun. We have a team. There's about 6 of us now. And we got developers, and we've partnered with a girl named Alana Simone, and she's the creator of Black Girl NFT. And she has like incredible work. And so she's our illustrator, just finalizing stuff right now. So we're very excited about that. It's called Digibuddies.
Who's your team? Like, who are you working with?
So Alana, she's the illustrator. We have a project manager, marketing guru that just tells me what to do. But we're just.
How did you find each other though?
My husband
has
a podcast as well, and so he
does.
Yeah, and so he has a podcast called the Web3 Prof. I don't know if I'm allowed to say another podcast.
Of course you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So he interviews a lot of these crypto people world. And so he was able to gain a lot of connection. He's really good at networking. And so, and we have a developer who's developing the game. And we have another guy who's like kind of creating the whole behind the scenes stuff as well. So it's just a small team right now. We've been part of an incubator called Hug, which Mark Zuckerberg, his sister is Randy, and when she left Facebook, created this hug, and it's a way to like curate artists. And so they took on our project, like we had to apply to be part of this. So they've been also like super helpful in helping us like come up with roadmap and business plan ideas and marketing. And so it's been like a really like kind of behind the scenes fun year. And so we're looking forward to launching that soon. And
is this through the Children's Hospital then, or is it independent and then you'll go through different hospitals?
Yeah, so we chatted with Children's Hospital. So our initial sales, 20% is going to go to BC Children's Hospital. And we've been talking to them about how do we get other children within the hospital or stay in the hospital to be part of it. And so, yes. So we work with Children's Hospital. Like they have our daughter in different campaigns and stuff. And so we have like a good relationship with them. And so, yeah, we will be in constant talking with them and dealing with them. And
so they're creating their own little NFTs essentially. Is that, and then trading them, or?
Yeah. So we have 5 characters are the first initial ones. And then as it grows and as the game grows, it'll be like, okay, we need another this. Can you? Okay. Yeah. And so it'll be like an added thing. I know you guys are both looking at me like, what the heck?
I love it.
Fascinating.
Like, it is. And it's
so
a totally
cool.
different, this whole Web3 world is just in the beginning. And it's incredible what's out there.
So cool.
And what's happening. So it'll be exciting as it develops, and I kind of nerd out on stuff like this.
No, that's
when I talk about it. So
amazing.
Are all the characters that are developed as of right now, are they all Sailor's inventions? Like all?
Yes. Yeah. And the boys each did one as well.
Okay.
That's so cool.
So yeah, they're pretty cute.
So what does a launch look like then? Like how would that look?
So they will be like NFTs. I know you don't like the word.
We don't.
That's
it's
how they're
cryptocurrency. I think that we don't like.
It's all part of it.
It's all part of it. Okay.
So they'll be like dropped where people can buy them, and
Right.
so that's how it starts.
Okay.
And I know it's kind of confusing the more.
Oh no, I get it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like it. I feel like I've reached my I'm old now. When I hear something and I'm like, I understand it in theory, but I don't really understand it.
Yeah.
But I get it in theory. But yeah, I do. Yeah, that's so cool.
It's becoming more mainstream too, like the whole NFT thing and all
It
that.
is.
Like,
Well,
it's
Starbucks
definitely
is doing it now with their they've just did a beta test of their new rewards program.
Okay.
And so what it is you can purchase these they call them what's it called? Journey passes, journey things. They've just renamed the word NFT. And I think people just need to get away from the NFT word and Web3, because that's what just trips people up. And so they're called journey passes, journey stamps. And so you purchase one, and then when you purchase it, it like unlocks other like levels of, swag you can get. And so essentially people are purchasing NFTs, and it's like, you don't need to have like this other like crazy crypto blockchain wallet thing. You can just have it like on your phone.
It's like collecting. It's like modern collection.
Like Ticketmaster's doing that now. It's like, when you used to keep like your ticket stubs.
Yeah.
Now it like becomes an NFT that you can have. And so it's like, it's just in the start, but it's really cool what companies
it's like
doing
modern
with it.
It's like modern coin collecting or stamp collecting is what it is really, which I think I would have totally been into if I was a baby boomer, like collecting little things.
It still makes also no sense. Like I often have to go to TikTok and be like, what is a blockchain?
Yeah.
Like,
so if people wanted more information on what you're talking about right now, where would they go? Is there
so we're gonna start releasing some things on our Instagram page first, at Digibuddies.
So that's your Instagram page, okay?
Yes.
And is there anywhere else people could look?
That's it right now. Yeah. And then on there we'll put our website. And they're finalizing that. You're
looking for like where, if people wanted to contribute to this or help somehow, how would they do that?
When our website comes, all that information will be on there. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. You'll have to keep us updated on that.
I will keep you updated.
We'll post a link to it as
I just
well.
love your faces right now. You're like, okay, that sounds really cool. Like,
no, it is. No, I think it's cool. It actually is.
It's reminding me a little bit of like, what is the game that the kids used to play, with like the little animals and stuff that they'd buy?
Animal Crossing? No, not Animal Crossing. Sorry.
Farmville?
No, I know what you're saying.
Do you remember Farmville?
Yeah.
Is it Animal Jam you're thinking?
Yeah, Animal Jam. Yeah. Kind of like that, but with NFTs. Because you would trade your like buddies, like your little, like you'd make little like rabbit holes, and then someone else's rabbit would come in and play with No,
Is this like a real game that
Yeah.
in your hands?
no, it's online.
Yeah. There's like characters that
And you buy
get or
different
whatever,
characters
and
and-
yeah, like you like can unlock certain characters, or it was really cool.
Okay.
Maybe it's a Gen Z kid thing.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But did you play Farmville?
yeah.
I remember being at someone's house and looking at my watch and being like,
Your crops are
my crops, like telling Jared, I was like, you know what? My apples, I need to go pick my
You
apples.
harvest those. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
They're
gonna rot
die.
on the tree.
Yeah,
It's
because
horrible.
they would die and you
Yeah.
would lose it.
And your pumpkins that take forever to
Yes.
harvest are gone now in 5 minutes.
Moldy. Yeah.
I remember but you could go and and harvest other people's things for them.
You can help
remember
them
that? You
out.
can help them out.
Yeah.
I remember texting my sort of nephew Shane once. I mean, could you just go and
harvest
my
stuff.
pumpkins right now? Shout out Shane. You could see old Facebook messages back and forth, thanks for whatever, something with my wheat or something.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, what is that? But it's all Farmville.
Yes, and then you get more
Yeah.
points if you shared on your
Yeah.
on your
Right.
wall about stuff like this.
Yeah, a lot of Facebook for a while was all that gaming, in Facebook games.
Yes.
That you played within Facebook. Yeah, that's all gone now. That was
Yeah.
annoying
A little bit.
because you're always being invited to play the games. I got more into that, I think, than you did, but I
true.
love it.
She was doing dragon boating and all that stuff.
I'm a big
I don't think she even knows about that.
I do know that you dragon boat.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
We're on a dragon boat
I
team?
didn't know you were on the same team though. Did you ever compete?
I think I went to one.
We went to
Two,
one.
Yeah.
wasn't it? And we were so sore that we were like, it's not for
dumb.
me.
Yeah.
I think we went to Boston Pizza after the one time. It was my sister was there too, and we're just like, nah.
Nah, we tried.
Here's my question. No, we didn't answer the question.
No, we didn't.
Because we've talked about whether or not millennials do better, and I actually answer that question with you.
We have an answer. Do you have an opinion, an answer? Do you think millennials do it better?
Oh, you know what?
It's a little bit of a vague question because in what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Do they do it better? I don't know if they necessarily do it better. I think it's great that the world is becoming more aware
Right.
of things.
Right.
Whether it's our self-help, self-love, which is also, right? That's
Yeah.
I'm sure you
Yeah.
we're more aware of how we speak to our children will therefore affect their future.
Right.
Mhm.
Just like how we were spoken to affects us as we parent or friendships so I think, is it better or worse? I don't know. I think anything about being more aware of how to be better or to change or I think that's always good things,
Yeah.
not in denial
Right.
or just waiting. It'll sort itself
It'll sort
out.
itself out.
Also, if you think of how many online what's this thing where you put your signature sign a petition. How many online petitions over the years have we signed? We know that it's not going to do anything.
No.
It's not going to change. But for years, it's if we just do this. But now I feel like people are actually making a change, whether it's in life by petitioning or actually protesting or doing their own internal change or with their children. And so I
Right.
think as society, we are being more active in making change happen.
Pendulum swung too far, but it sometimes needs to, I guess.
Yeah.
To swing back to norm.
I do think it has swung too far.
It has, yeah.
And so I think it's how do we okay, now just normalize
Self-correct
things.
a little bit,
Yeah.
Yes. Everything is so extreme now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has your opinion changed at all on whether you think millennials would do better?
No.
Oh, it hasn't.
No.
So what do you think?
I don't think they do it better.
At all in any way.
I do respect and appreciate the fact that they are more open to talking about as annoying as it is for me that they talk about themselves so much. I do appreciate that as well because I think that in the long run probably will help. But overall, I don't know, but it might just be a Gen X thing that I think we do it better. What about you?
I don't completely I do identify with a little bit. I think just being a younger Gen X, I'm not like one of the older ones. So
What's your answer, Vic?
let me get to it. Calm down.
I don't know. I feel like you're making excuses.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
So I
won't
feel,
offend any of us.
I think I will.
Okay.
I think millennials are easily offended for sure. Not you, but some are.
You're not the typical millennial, though.
Thank goodness. No. No, I don't know if millennials are. No, you know what? Millennials can make fun of themselves. I've seen it over and over again. They seem to be self-aware. No, I think just being a young Gen X, I can appreciate millennials to a certain, like some of their thinking to a certain extent. So like what you're talking about, like being more self-aware, like all of that. In that way, I don't necessarily think that they're doing it better. Because I think it's a little clumsy. You know what I'm saying? So I also don't think Gen X is doing it better either. But when it comes to like parenting and stuff, I think Gen X did it better. I'm sorry. I do.
I just feel like there was more logic.
A little bit, yeah.
Right?
It's just really hard like to like watch all this like free range.
Is that just because we're old?
I think so. I think so. It's just really hard to like the parenting thing. I can't either.
No.
We're both looking at Ashley like, please don't be mad. I'm sure your kids are lovely.
Yeah, and no, but I think like I was saying earlier, you guys have experience. You've been through it.
Yeah.
That you probably are maybe from a distance, like watching a dumpster fire, but like we're still like enjoying the heat of the fire where you're like, hey, wait, there's like 6 propane tanks just over there and you're not even noticing
and
it.
there's just little things like the whole thing, like kids need more, give them choices. Like, no, like too many choices stress kids out. Like they're going to start overreacting to things and like being like, kids need boundaries and structure.
Yes.
Again, not all millennials are like that. But as a whole, from what I've seen, I just feel like Gen X had that more dialed
we reeled that
in
a bit. Yeah.
As far as the other aspects, like the self-awareness, I think millennials might be a little bit better on that. I'm going to be honest with that. I think Gen X definitely, we hide everything with sarcasm, skepticism. We're a little bit more jaded, and I don't think that's a positive thing.
But again, though, as I said earlier, though, sometimes deep diving into yourself just opens up a whole other like can of worms. Like sometimes is it do you want to deep dive that far? I don't
think it's always deep diving though. I think it's like just knowing better so you can do better. If you don't learn why you're acting the way you're acting or why you're not gonna, your children are just gonna be victims of that, right? Instead of trying to improve on that. You have to understand yourself a little bit. I think Gen X are that way somewhat, but I don't know if that's been influenced by millennials, right?
Yeah.
So we can be like, oh, well, we do that, but why do we do that? Because millennials have paved the way maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you think, I'm curious to know, do you think that millennial parents have their children in too much activities?
No.
Or do you think, would you say Gen X had just
Gen
as
X
much or had more?
Way more.
Yeah. That's part of the helicopter parenting, right?
Yeah.
Like so you're driving them all over the place.
You're with them all the time. There's never no downtime with. And again, why the millennials probably do the work, home, everything life better because maybe they're not as I feel like sometimes we barely saw our kids in certain stages of our lives we were never home as a family to eat dinner ever. Someone always
better?
was out. I'm not saying it was that's something different.
Yeah.
I'm saying
Okay.
are my kids okay from it? I think so.
Right.
It's just different.
Right. So maybe that's the question. Maybe it's just different. I don't think we're gonna know until we see Gen Alpha and what the
millennials kids.
With millennials,
true.
Right? And it's not even just it's actually the proof is in the pudding right there. Is how that generation, who they grew up to be.
And we say are millennials doing it better, but I feel like a lot of our focus is on like parenting and that type of thing, right? It's not like over as a whole. What we're looking at right now is more just like that aspect
parenting
of it, right?
personal, because there's even like millennials in the workplace, and there's like,
or like I'm in some group chats and stuff, and the one I'm in, they're all
what are
very
group chat, like just for fun, like
Yeah, like
random
texting people.
Oh, like
my
groups of
friends.
friends.
Like, yeah.
This is kind of weird. This is a thing you do?
Yeah, it's a Gen X thing.
I didn't know if this was like Facebook group chats or
like friends of mine. We have like a group chat on our phones.
Okay.
Or tablet, whatever you decide.
Tablet.
And they're all young millennials as well, but they all don't have kids and they all don't want kids. And I feel like they relate to me. They don't necessarily have the attributes of like what typical millennials would. So I think that's interesting too. A lot of it comes down to parenting. I feel like that's where you're
For
seeing.
you, I think.
Yeah.
That's where your issues lie.
Yeah.
Is with like the issues that you're seeing with some
So
of
then
the
what is
children.
your I'd like to hear from both of you. What is your thing that annoys you most about millennials? It doesn't even have to be parenting, just in general. What is the one thing that annoys you the most?
It is the parenting though.
It is. Okay.
It's the lack of structure for kids. In my opinion, it's the lack of parenting. I don't like free range children. I just think it creates monsters.
Yeah.
But that's just
Yeah.
me, right? Because maybe I created monsters. I don't know. Because I'm very like rule orientated, but maybe that isn't good. I don't know. We'll see.
Right. Is it reflective of your personality?
Very,
Like,
I'm
right,
very
like-
much a rule follower. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I raised my kids exactly how I was raised. I feel, whereas I feel like millennials are switching it up. Right.
Right.
They
Yeah.
don't raise like they were raised.
Right. They don't want to be raised how they
That's
were
right.
raised.
Whereas
type thing.
I tried to mimic, which didn't always work. I mean, there was other aspects of that too. Obviously, growing up in a church and stuff too. Like there was just different rules, so to speak, right? But yeah, I feel like I pretty much did it by the book of like what my parents were doing, and it didn't always work. But because there's also things like I was just a really, really good kid. I just never did anything. My parents could trust me. I was just that kid, and so that was a bit of a shock for me when my kids didn't always just listen to me. So I don't know if it's also a personality thing, right? But yeah, I don't. It's the parenting thing that bothers me the most.
Right.
I'm glad you talked first because it took me a second to think about what my
Okay.
answer is.
Just hearing how perfect she is.
Yeah, right.
she
I'm
does everything.
such a good parent.
Such a good parent.
I may not be perfect, but I'm so close to it. It
Yeah,
scares
you
me
are.
sometimes.
Very close.
For me, I think it's the there seems to be a lot of like when I hear millennials talk about a subject, there's such like they're so afraid to offend or really speak their mind or the truth because they don't want to like
Get canceled.
get canceled.
Mhm.
It's like that cancel culture, afraid to really or just to adopt the kind of PC mindset because that's what we're supposed to believe. Like I feel there's a bit of a drone mentality with millennials. Like this is what we're all believing, and this is because this is what is cool to believe right now. There isn't a lot of
Independent
Self-thinking.
thought.
independent
Yeah.
thought, and if you do have independent thought, there's no nerve to say it because they
Right.
don't want to be dismissed or canceled. It's just really irritating sometimes to hear like, oh, just another version of the same opinion over and over and over again. Like it's refreshing to hear different opinions and for people to speak fearlessly without, I don't
Worry
know.
about repercussions.
Yeah, it just seems to me there's just a generation of people who are so afraid to be different. I don't know if that's a social media thing because everyone just wants to so be
That cookie
within
cutter.
a
Perfect
parameter of I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you see that too or if that's just my perception of it, but
Yeah. I think it's like you kind of just believe what's out there. Not everyone, obviously, but it's kind of like whatever information is out there, we just believe it.
Or the most popular opinion at the
yeah.
time. Yeah.
And maybe it is like you're saying, cancel culture. Like I think that terrifies people.
Huge part
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
Of like even going back to like look at like statuses like Facebook side. I mean, we keep going back to social media, but it's like how many times you hear about like a politician who like tweeted a photo like
Right.
10 years ago
Right.
about something and then like
Now they're in
They're
trouble.
out. They're in
Yeah.
trouble. And it was we don't have grace.
no.
We don't have grace for people to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Not even thinking like, oh, they were like 22
A
or
different
something.
person even.
Yeah.
And like
And we've just changed as everybody's just changed as like we've evolved so much, right? Like what was offensive then or what is offensive now wasn't offensive then necessarily, right?
Yeah.
Because we've evolved and we're like, yeah, that wasn't cool.
Yes.
But doesn't mean you rake them to the coals now because of it, right?
Yeah. Do you think it'll just like continually get worse? Or do you think it has to like
How much worse can it get? Like that's how I feel like we're at right now. Like I feel like we're so extreme in everything. Like what else is going to happen? I feel like you were saying, the pendulum has to swing back a little bit now.
I know my kids hate cancel culture. Like my daughter the other day was like, "Oh my goodness, that person was like young, like relax." Like she's just so irritated by it all. And I don't know why millennials are so at each other.
Yeah.
Like what's it's like pitchfork mob mentality. And I think it's like the
like
internet kind of, it's like this thing happening, and that's what irritates me by far the most. Like you don't even know the facts yet, or you don't even know like
the other side of the story.
Right. Or, like there's so much nuance and context, and we just write people off. I think we do that in our personal life, or not we, but like, well, I guess maybe we. I think everyone's guilty of it, just writing things off by what you see in a second. I just don't think it's very healthy, and millennials seem to not really get it. I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, millennials.
Sorry, these two ladies don't like you.
No, I love my sister's a millennial. I love millennials. But that being said, my sister raises her kids very different than I raised mine too, right?
Yeah.
So that's just like a very obvious in my face. Is she doing it better? I don't know. Her kids are less rules, I want to say, right? But maybe that's great. Like maybe that's great for them. They're, I don't know.
Isn't there like there's so much anxiety in Gen Z? Like it's an epidemic, they're saying. That generation has so much anxiety.
Put too much pressure on them.
I wonder
parents.
who raised them? Us. So like maybe Alpha will be nice and chill. Right? Because they were allowed to eat anywhere they wanted.
And eat whatever they want.
Exactly.
Yeah. They could have Honey Nut Cheerios for lunch. Who cares?
And dinner.
Yeah, whatever. I'm pretty relaxed too, but like it's true. Like Gen Z is an anxious generation.
Yeah.
So what's the reason for that? Is it our fault?
Yeah, probably.
Probably. So, but our generation will admit that because we're arrogant.
We take ownership over it, and we're not apologetic about it.
We laugh at. We're like, oh, we're so arrogant. Ha ha. They're gonna cancel us. Ha ha ha. Like we just think it's so funny. Like the thought of being canceled amuses me so highly.
Cancel me
from what? Right? You're like,
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like, okay, that's fine. I like to see it, but yeah. Anyway, you have not changed your mind. I've having talked it out, I've softened a little bit.
That's good.
Not gonna lie.
You're touching hearts.
Well, I mean, yeah. I feel like I'm not a very good millennial like evangelist because I'm on the older side of it. I really
wanted a millennial evangelist, to be honest with you, because then you'd be sitting here offended, I think. Right? And that would have been a bad dynamic.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're not going to do that. All right. Well, that's that, I think. Are you good?
I think I'm good.
Okay, that's good.
All right, you good?
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on the Triple V spot here.
She's taking us out. Take us out.
Yeah, take us out here, Ashley.
Vaughan.
It's been a slice.
We don't say that. Sorry, we don't say slice.
I'm just joking. Don't get sus. We'll be okay. Sus. I don't know. My kid said the other day, he's like, this is gonna be so sus, and I was like, can you use that in a proper sentence? Like, I don't know what you're saying.
I think it's like suspect.
Or suspicious.
Oh, that's what it is. Suspicious.
And then I started saying, "Don't be suspicious. Don't
be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Like,
be suspicious."
Another fun fact about millennials before we end this Triple V spot is during COVID, there was a massive influx of millennial moms joining TikTok,
which was so entertaining, and I appreciated.
I appreciate the dad bods out there doing it instead. I get tired. I feel like it's the same thing. I think we're all copying each other.
But isn't that what TikTok is? We just like
recycle
in the beginning we were just like lip syncing.
But I feel like the older generations actually just go out there and just like say stupid shit and then call it a day.
Oh, right.
Whereas
that's a good point.
Do you know what I mean? Like they just say it and then bye. Whereas others are just doing all the trends, and I don't know. It's
millennials
different.
Want to be cool on TikTok still.
Yeah.
I think that Gen X is like, if I'm not cool, that's more humorous.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's a certain joy in
just like
knowing you're so cringe.
I saw this TikTok where it was like millennial taking a picture of their food, and it's like the dinner's not touched, like at a restaurant, so everything's perfect. It's like click, and then it's like Gen Z taking it, and it's like the messy, and it's like a zoom up of like part of the fork.
Totally.
Totally. Gen Z is so funny. Like they just thrive on chaos. Like it amuses me so much. Like because even like millennials when they're like doing a TikTok that's very like perfect and set up. Yes. Or Gen Z is always like,
it's like there's like so what?
It's chaos. It's chaos. Yeah.
It's like we have like we like have our like, you know, like the tripod, the pod, like the ring mirror, and you're just like
it's gotta be perfect.
Yeah.
Millennials have to be perfect.
This is so like enlightening having this conversation because I feel so guilty of so many things that I do.
Still a millennial. You're influenced by your generation for sure.
Do you think I'm narcissistic?
Mm-mm.
Like
not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
Zero.
We wouldn't have
Let me know if you think
zero. Zero.
You think I am.
You wouldn't be sitting in that chair if we thought you were.
No.
I wouldn't do well with that.
But you still are influenced by a generation that's probably more narcissistic. So you would have been raising your kids amongst people who are a bit more self-focused, self-absorbed. So it could still influence how you react to like the world around you or whatever.
I'm definitely like, I get FOMO of like a product that's been someone has put on Instagram. Like I'm like, I need that. Hence I like rub beef fat on my face every night just because I saw it on a TikTok once.
What?
So beef tallow, look it up. It's just
not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. This is an ad.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again though? You do what?
Called beef tallow, and it is like the fat from. It has to be a grain-fed,
of course,
cow. Obviously,
obviously has to be
no hormones.
Yeah,
and it's like the
free range cow,
and it's the fat that's like scraped off their inner organs, and
after they're killed.
After they've been butchered.
Yeah,
yes, so it's like, and you basically like cook it, boil it for, I don't know, a week. I don't really know how long it does.
PETA is losing their mind right now. So
I did not be canceled.
I did not make this someone who has a business of like
actually
butchering harvesting it. They gave me some.
Ashley is scraping fat off the organs of cows.
I'm breaking into butcher shops on Main Street. And so then it comes in this like, and you like, it gets whipped and it's incredible.
Does it smell like
it doesn't even smell like beef. No, it smells like nothing. And it's like white.
Butter?
Like it's like substance? A butter texture. Okay. And the whole thing is like, you put it, it's like a face cream and it doesn't clog or anything because it's the closest thing to skin. Like it's just fat and it's the nourishment, nutrients.
To keep your skin
well, just
healthy.
like the collagen in it that's already in it. And anyways, saw it on a TikTok once, and
it sounds expensive.
You're like, I need it.
It is expensive to buy. I have
she
someone
harvests herself. It's
fine. She's my own.
She's got a cow in the back. She just scrapes it.
My side hustle, which is also millennials all have side hustles, right?
Yeah,
everyone has a side hustle. I think I like how we're trying to end this, and I'm like, but one more thing.
It's okay.
I enjoy that you rub cow beef fat on your face at night.
Thank you.
And so are you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
But you literally just heard it, and we're like, I'm gonna try that. Like you're that easily influenced by a TikTok?
I get very easily influenced by things, which is probably another characteristic. I often get overly excited about things. Okay. Like the phrase, "Oh my gosh, this changed my life," like literally comes out of my mouth so much that my husband often comes behind me and says, as a disclaimer, she says this about everything. But like I just get really excited about things. And so if I see a product or hear something, I get excited about it and I tell everyone I know about it. And then I stop using it. But this one is actually
where would someone find this if they wanted to purchase some?
I don't know.
Oh, you just have a supplier.
I just
you have a guy.
Is it like black market?
No,
is this like legal?
I didn't even know if like I didn't want to upset people, so I don't want to say where I got it from. Like,
if you're comfortable sharing, please share.
So my sister has a beef cattle ranch,
right?
And so they also like they have a business where they butcher meat and it's all grass fed. And so she made this in huge vats, and it's like literally like it's like what like I found it on Etsy or something. 1 ounce was like $30. Like it's incredibly expensive stuff. And so she brought me like a jar like this, and I was like, yes, I will take it.
That is amazing.
Is that her side hustle now? Is she
I told her she should though.
Yeah.
I said,
or at least give it to you and you can start a
I was
side
like,
hustle.
why don't you come down with your beef fat and like we can just like
have a weekend.
Throw it in the KitchenAid mixer and like whip
that crap.
That's
Oh my goodness.
Have you noticed like differences? Like, is it
Huge.
really
Like huge differences. It's been like maybe 2 months now I've done it, and like I used to have like a dry nose. I don't know. I think also I'm like almost perimenopause. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I felt like my skin went nuts.
Yeah.
Like my pores are ginormous. And
So here's the difference, though. We're talking to you about it, and now we're interested. You saw it on something we're interested. So that goes back to
we learn
Xers
from
talk.
people? Yeah,
you see it on the internet.
yeah,
that's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
that is a good thing. Yeah,
So now I want beef fat.
I
for my
totally want.
face.
Now I'm hitting up your sister for some beef fat.
yeah,
Yeah.
You should look it up. Beef tallow.
How do you spell tallow?
TALLOW. People also like cook with it too. Like they use it as like like coconut oil type
Oh, okay.
thing where you
Like an
could cook
oil, an
with
actual
it.
oil type thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really.
Is this a new thing, or people have been doing this for years?
It's like
and
an
now
ancestral.
Okay.
Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Ancestral thing that's been around
So generational.
for generations, and so they would use it for like chapped lips or like dry skin.
So like
eczema.
before there was like produced creams and stuff. This was what
Yeah.
they're interesting.
Yeah, and it's like used to get what's it called, KP
Oh, those little
bump
bumps.
things on
Yeah.
there. Like I just like my
You don't get
skin
it?
feels no.
Okay,
It's like
my girls both have that, so
Yeah.
I'm actually hitting up Amber.
beef.
I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Is that annoying to be like, hey, Amber, can I have your beef's fat?
Well, no, I told her. I said next time you come down, bring it.
We'll pay her for
We'll
it.
jar
yeah.
it and you
yeah.
can like sell
I
it
want
for
some
that.
too. So
Okay.
make
Look-
sure.
Look what just happened.
Yeah.
You
They're-
just created a side
Created
hustle.
another side hustle.
Okay, I think the name of this episode needs to be like beef tallow on your face or something like that. Like this
Breaking news.
breaking news.
That's also. Do you realize how desensitized to the word breaking news?
Yeah.
Do you notice this?
Yeah.
There is no breaking news anymore.
Like I think it's a word that's been overused.
Yeah.
Like breaking news. Candace Cameron Bure left Hallmark. Like just like
yeah.
why is this even
It used to
breaking
be
I
like
news?
love
there's
that that was your breaking
I don't know. I was
news.
just
the fact that you even know that. I'm
Yeah.
so
I just
excited
remember
that
it
you
was
just
like
said-
one time, like this thing where I was like, we are so desperate to get attention
Yeah.
of something interesting because I think we're so desensitized to anything.
Yeah.
Because like the world's just chaos. So it's like
Yeah.
breaking news. And you're like, I don't know.
Meh.
Huh.
Now I'm just really getting warmed up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now the episode shall start. Now we're really gonna get into it. All right. Well, I guess I'll call it because we could keep going, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's 9:45. So we've been talking for good luck editing this one.
Or it's just going to be a two-parter. All right. Well, thanks for coming.
Yes,
to
we
see
appreciate
us,
it.
Ashley, and being in the Ashley Vaughan, our third V,
Thank you.
being in the literal hot seat.
Thank you. Thank you.
And yeah, we'll have you
Good
again.
I'd
and
love
good
to
luck
come
on
back.
your game.
Life?
No, your game.
Thank you.
That is
Yeah.
so. What was the name of it again? Just so
Digibuddies.
Digibuddies. I love it.
Okay.
I think that's gonna be. I think you'll be very successful with it.
Thank you.
Immediately after this, the V Spot is going to follow DigiBuddies on Instagram. So
Thank
if you
you.
want to find it, just go to our Instagram and take a look. Yeah. All right.
All right. See ya.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.